Hey, welcome to another edition of Regenerative Inspiration. We're here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm with Eric Gilbert, and we are going to be talking about a lot of different things, but he is the owner and founder of FOH Productions and also Roadcase. And we're going to see a little bit of a tour here in the warehouse, as well as we're going to hear about a little bit of adversity and what got him to where he is today. So join with us. All right. Well, so Eric, tell us a little bit about FOH and Roadcase, how it started.
So we got started, I was working in the industry as a freelance engineer and started to work with clients.
Yeah.
And they were asking me for referrals for, where should we get the equipment and what other technicians and can you help me navigate the process for corporate events and meetings? So over time, I started referring, and one day one of my clients came in and said, hey, I know you like this company, but we're looking for somebody that's maybe just a little easier to deal with on the administrative side. And they said, do you have another option? And I said, I do. And I said, what if I do it? And she said, do you need a deposit check? And I said, yes, I do. And that's where that's how it all got started.
Well, show us what you got now.
So we started out, I started out in my garage in around 2008 and made the first purchases of equipment. And that was a difficult time in the economy.
Yeah.
And most people were telling me, they're like, oh, Eric, don't do this. This is the worst possible time. The economy's bad, but I didn't listen. But somehow it kind of worked out. So started purchasing equipment, started in the garage, just kind of kept moving up. And we just kept reinvesting the entire time, make a little bit of money, buy more equipment. And so we've grown, added people. I never thought that we would be this size, but I think I was kind of more creating a job for myself in the beginning. But here we are, and it's been a great opportunity to grow my team and be able to find talented young people. I think that's one of the things that I have an eye for is spotting talent in young people, even if maybe they don't know about it themselves, and just being able to grow. So grown it into where we are now.
Well, so it's interesting you say about 2008, because it's funny because big businesses have been created in bad markets. And so you push in when things are hard,
Yeah.
and that's when true leaders actually make things happen. So I think that's actually kudos to you for identifying that, because everything was on sale at that point too. It wasn't easy to find money,
Right.
but it was easy to find maybe discounts on gear, or people that are, their company was falling apart because they had bad management or they had too much bloat in what they had done. And then you were able to leap from there. People were looking for more value in a downturn. So if you create more value for the price, you got the win. That's really what it comes down to. And I think, we see that even now in today's age, people are looking for more value. AI is pushing the price of a lot of things down. We got to create more value. How can we use those tools? How can we use that technology? How can we make that happen? So, and I love that you're nurturing people and mentoring them all the way up, because that's how a great workforce and family and a winning team is created, because you're making that whole thing happen. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I feel like, one thing we say a lot is that we do the last 10 to 20% that a lot of other companies shy away from. And it's because it's the hardest part.
That's right.
And especially in the beginning, I was I was small. Nobody really knew who I was. So I said yes. If there was some different type of request that most companies wouldn't handle, I'd be like, if I could do it, yeah, I'll do that. And so over time, it was just, I was the person that was willing to help the client do the things that some of the other, maybe a larger, more established companies were like, yeah, we don't do that. And that's where they stopped.
Yeah.
So,
well, I understand that. And it's also gotta be where you don't lose money on that, because there's a reason why they don't do it sometimes.
And I'm sure there was definitely times where it didn't make sense, but I made the client happy.
Yeah.
And that maybe gave us a leg up to continue doing business and move forward. So this is our engineering department, new systems, repair. So we purchased quite a bit of equipment in the last few months. And so everything is starting to come in. New Riedel comm systems, L-acoustic amp racks, lighting, networking packages, and video work boxes. So This is just a handful of the systems that we're currently working on.
Well, talk through this a little bit, because you're creating this whole system as well. Tell me what thought process has gone into this?
So one thing that we are known for, because we have the two companies, Roadcase.com and FOH Productions, I feel like that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So having the Roadcase company has really helped us to be a kind of a premier company in packaging, because we can communicate directly and put a lot of time and effort into the designs. When technicians see the systems that we have, they're like, wow, this was really well thought through. This makes a lot of sense. There's a place for everything, and the equipment is much better taken care of because there's a place to put it back. And the technicians really appreciate the thought process from a technician's perspective. So having the two companies and being able to work so closely on the manufacturing side gives us that incredible packaging, and that saves a lot of time and resources on site.
Love it. That's great.
And you'll notice as we go through that we've got different colors of cases, and they're color-coded by department. So this gray is going to be a video, where these wireless mic kits here, blue is our audio.
Okay. Nice. All the gear that's coming in and out, like, is this like a rental too, or is this all your team and all the productions that you're doing around the region or nation?
So our clients are primarily production companies or experiential marketing companies, and they work directly with the end client. So they are the creative side of things, and they usually come to us to turn that creative vision into what's technically possible.
Okay.
So we are usually working with the creative department or the agency, and then they're working for the direct client.
Got it. What's next?
So we're heading into video.
Okay.
And video is that gray, the gray color.
Yep.
Again, lots of equipment coming back. This is all in the QC area. So it'll get QC'd, turned around, and put away, ready for the next show. So monitors, switchers, record decks, cameras, and then video continues down this direction. Large monitors, projection screens, projectors, and so on. In here is where we repair our own scenic panels. So we have quite a bit of LED panels, and LED is what kind of drives the corporate events and meeting market. So we repair our own panels. So that's what they're doing in here. The team in here is repairing panels and getting them ready to go back out.
How big a wall have you made? What's the biggest wall?
Usually it's multiples. Instead of one big one, it's a lot of times it's multiple very large walls.
Yeah.
So we're loading in one this morning that's got 3 pretty good sized walls in Vegas.
Jeez.
So
when you walk into a conference, or when you walk into even a large office that has a ton of different like things that you experience, there's an attachment to that brand. Talk about that a little bit, because I mean, you help facilitate these with agencies, but can you touch on that a little?
Yeah, a little bit. We're actually loading in that show I mentioned in Vegas. There's a general session portion, and then there's like a hub room. And what they're doing is they're transforming that big open space into kind of what feels kind of like a neighborhood. So with some AV equipment, with some scenic, and they're kind of creating the mood of like, little hubbed areas, kind of like a neighborhood. And then they've combined some breakout rooms into the corners, but there's a DJ, there's bistro lighting hung throughout. The lighting kind of creates the mood when they walk in. So for this company, they're creating an environment that hopefully motivates their salespeople, gives them a different look on things, and just keeps it interesting too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's exciting. A lot of that's happening in our industry.
Gone are the days of the old expo where it's just like booths.
Yeah.
That still exists.
Still exists,
but there's areas where you're like, oh my gosh.
Well,
how did they build this in a day or a week?
Well, the cool thing is that you can take that expo idea, but turn it into something that's really interesting and fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think that, how people feel when they walk in the room, that's kind of what they remember versus, okay, just a bunch of booths. Let me go around and check this off my list.
Exactly. Well, that's awesome. And you're the skeleton and bones behind all of that, which is amazing.
The technology to make that happen. So
yeah, so cool. Well, Eric, thank you for showing us around here today.
Of course.
There's always more topics I want to talk about. And I want to talk about there was a case that kind of got this whole thing moving.
Yeah.
And it happened from a company. You ordered, they sent you the wrong color.
Yep.
And then what happened?
So they sent me the wrong color. And I called them, and I was expecting them to say, hey, I'm so sorry. We'll remake this. We'll send it right out to you. And they said, well, let's see what we can do on the next order. And I was like, wow, that's probably not going to work. And so I honestly didn't know what to say at the time because I was a really small little company and they were a pretty sizable company that, you know, they were the most respected in the industry. And so I think at that point, I just decided, well, let me see what I can do. And we never ended up ordering another case from them again. And now I feel like we're their number one competitor. So that's how it all got started.
So take some advice, customer service, because otherwise you can create a competitor. I mean,
yeah,
that's a big deal. I mean, that's maybe 10 years ago.
That would have been in like 2009.
2009. Okay. So we're looking at like 15, 16 years.
Yep.
Right. But now you're their number one competitor.
Yeah. Quickest way to create another competitor is for customer service. So.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. So tell me a little bit more about some of the adversity you've gone through. Because I know we talked about COVID, what that did. Is there anything else, you know, that you've gone through that other people could pull inspiration from?
You know, I mean, there's been several times like through our growth of both companies where something big happened and it was unexpected. And there's times, you know, I remember early on with Roadcase when we lost our CNC operator and I was out in the shop and I was by myself. And I think there was probably a couple of tears because I was just like not really sure what to do. But I was like, okay, you know, pull yourself together. It's going to be okay. You know, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that much, you know, longer that we found another operator, moved on, and then things get better. So what I've learned is that every time there's like a really difficult situation and you're at that, I don't know what I'm going to do point, pushing forward, it almost always propels you to the next level and gets you to a place you never thought. So if you can just get past that initial, like, I want to give up part, you know, it's always better on the other side. So a little bit of pushing forward, a little bit of like, you know, kind of talking yourself through it, I think goes a long way.
Yeah, that's huge. And also, I mean, so let's talk about how it originally started. You wanted to be a singer, right?
I drums and percussion is what I did elementary school, high school, and college. So I had a scholarship to go to college for music. And, you know, of course, my mom thought I was the best musician in the world, you know, as moms do. But I started looking around and I was seeing these amazing musicians and I was like, ooh, I don't think that I'm that good. So I was like, what are my options? I could be a music teacher, which at the time I wasn't really interested in, or I could be a bartender and a struggling musician on the side. So I had always been really technical. So I did all the technical work in the theater. I installed everybody's car stereos. It just seemed to make sense. And I looked around and I was like, hey, I guess there's an industry for this. And I got a job here locally at a resort doing AV. And I was like, this is great. I mean, it was still hard work, but it wasn't like a normal job. I felt like there was a long time in this industry where I'm like, when is somebody going to realize that they're paying us a lot of money to do something fun, you know?
It's not fun for everybody.
It might not be fun for everybody, especially if it's not the way your mind works.
You're in the right place when you think it's fun.
Yeah. So, you know, this industry has treated us really well. I'm so grateful. The opportunity that it has given my team members, you know, some young people that never thought that they would probably have anything more than a job, have like a real career and they're taking great care of their families. And that is just heartwarming to see when you can help somebody grow into their potential or maybe even push past what they thought their potential was. So
let's talk about COVID though, because, you know, we lost 90% of our business in like one day or 1 week. You did very similar. So what happened there?
Right before COVID, the two companies, we were still growing, but we had about 70 employees at the time. And we went from 70 down to 9. And it was instantaneous. All of our work immediately canceled. In fact, we did have some Roadcase business. So for months and months during the pandemic, actually, I think more than a year, we all built Roadcases. So we saw earlier in the interior department, which I feel like is the hardest job. That's what I did. I put interiors together for cases because we still had some case orders happening. But that was difficult. I would say that was probably the most difficult time in my entire life, was making it through COVID. And I think what made it difficult was that it wasn't anything that anybody had done. It wasn't it wasn't, anybody's fault. But here we are. We have this situation, and what are you going to do about it? You could just bury your head in the sand and not worry about it, or you could try and actively pivot, like virtual and things like that. And the good thing is, I think everybody realized that virtual is not nearly as fun as meeting with your friends in person and going to big events and meetings. But we kind of did what we had to do. And we came back after COVID. Things started to get busy. And now, between the two companies, we're about 140 employees. And we've expanded and doubled our space. So it's a little bit of a whiplash for sure. It's like, if we were going to be really busy, it was going to be the busiest year ever, 2020. Went down to nothing. And then in the years afterwards, we've shot back up. So if you look at a graph, we're kind of on the same trajectory if you take out COVID.
Yeah. So, wow, that's pretty impressive. And I mean, so walk back to that though. I mean, what was it like in that first part for you when you're like, okay, am I just going to give up? I'm down to 9 people. I had to let people go.
Yeah.
Like we had no idea if there was going to be any like supplements or whatever else from the government or pay or whatever else or coverage or loans or you're just sitting there as a small business going, what? Like what went through your head and what gave you the grit to like say, I'm going to go start putting carpet in over here and pads in? Like, tell me, where did you get that from?
So I remember when we just started to hear about COVID, and we'd actually ordered some equipment that was coming from China, and they called us and said, hey, your equipment delivery is going to be late. And we're like, oh, what's going on? They're like, yeah, all the factories are like shutting down in China. And this is before anybody in the United States was really catching on to it. And we thought, that's kind of odd, but we're like, okay, so keep going. So then we start hearing a little bit more and clients start calling. And I remember gathering my entire team together and just saying, hey guys, there's something happening. I don't know what's exactly happening here, but there's this thing called COVID. And have you guys heard about it? And most of my team's pretty young. They're not, like an old guy like me watching the news every day. So I started to kind of tell them, hey, keep an eye out for this because I'm not sure, we might have like a couple weeks or something that we might not be as busy. And we kept having those meetings each week and it kept getting worse and worse. And we got to the point where all the work had gone away and we had to start letting people go. And we did it in waves, hoping that we wouldn't have to let everybody go. But after a while, when the work wasn't coming back, we eventually had to go down to just the 9 people, and a lot of tears were shed. Like, I mean, I think that was probably the worst day of my life is when I finally had to let the last group of people go. And I do remember, I think I was the one crying the most, I think. We had a couple of employees that were really disappointed, but the good thing is, the happy ending to the story is that we got almost everybody back. So after things came back, we reached out and people were willing to come back. Some of them, it took a little bit longer, but I think that goes to show like the culture that we had and the love of the industry. People were ready to come back, and now, this is a record year for us. So
amazing. That is so good. Well, I tell you what, any other thing you'd like to add for an entrepreneur? I think from a standpoint of those that are starting out right now, I think talking to the younger generation, maybe they're in college, they had a degree that maybe it's not applicable anymore. Maybe AI is taking their job. Maybe it's leverage their job in a different way, but maybe there's some high schoolers out there that just need a little bit of hope. Do you have any ideas or thoughts around what industries they can go after, or like ways they could find like their own, path?
Yeah. So, I think this industry is actually really great, especially like the characteristics that I see for the people who do really well in this industry is they have some technical aptitude. Like, if you don't mind reading an equipment manual, then this industry might be right for you. Or if you like watching a YouTube video on the technical side of things and how, anything audio, video, lighting, LED related, if that's at all an interest to you, you should look into this industry because if you have drive and determination, you can make really good money in this industry. You can develop a career And it is a huge skill set. The one thing I will say is that we are so short-handed in this industry. If we don't get some young talent, I'm a little concerned that we won't have enough technicians to go around. There is a big technician shortage. So I would say any young person that thinks this is interesting, I mean, definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to share my experience and to point you in the right direction. And we're always looking for talented young people. So
amazing. So would you say it's more on the audio side or more on like the LED and visual side?
So our industry is driven primarily right now by LED. So very large LED displays, but although you can, and video. So those two areas are probably the biggest areas, but no matter what, audio and lighting, you always need really talented people in every department. So the industry in general, I would just welcome people to look into it. And you might find that it's the best job you've ever had. So best career, best job, and getting to hang out with people. I mean, it's pretty casual around here. So I feel like a lot of times, you know, there's lots of joking and it's more like hanging out with your friends, doing a little bit of work. So
I love it. Well, thanks for coming on, Eric. You know, this has been awesome. And if you need anything, please work with Eric. He's been absolutely amazing. I can tell from the team members that I've met, the customer service that I know that he exudes, like you're going to be taken care of no matter what your circumstances are. So it's really awesome. But Eric's been amazing. So join in next time on Regenerative Inspiration. I want to thank you for coming on as a guest, and of course follow, share, and send this to somebody that's either a young person that is looking maybe for a career or aspirations there, or a manufacturer that needs a little bit more help in organizing what they're doing, an entrepreneur that needs a little bit of motivation on how you make it through some obstacles. Appreciate you all. Thanks so much. Until next time.